Welcome to Leading by Example, Upholding Standards Without Compromise. I am your host, Dr. Vaughn, inspiring excellence, one lesson at a time. Are you ready to be better within your world and become the standard bearer within your organization or wherever you are? Leaders, aspirants, every one of you, all of us influence our culture, the organization's culture, our workplace's culture through actions taken both inside and outside of the workplace. I founded Ontero Solutions upon integrity, customer satisfaction, and attention to detail, specifically executive coaching and leadership development. Join in for fun, practical, and educational stories as I share lessons, both the good and the bad, that I have learned in my 20 years of leadership and management experience. Leading by example starts now. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand spanking new radio show that is set to challenge the status quo, inspire change, and empower you to lead by example in a world where standards are often compromised. I'm Dr. Vaughn, your host for this series, and I'm thrilled to be on this journey of discovery and transformation with you. Have you ever wondered why standards seem to erode in our society, whether it's in the realm of ethics, business, politics, or even our personal lives? Why do we often find ourselves in situations where principles and values are sacrificed for short-term gains or convenience? These questions lie at the heart of our show, Leading by Example, Upholding Standards Without Compromise. Over the course of the show, we will delve deep into the complex landscape of compromised standards, seeking answers, insights, and most importantly, solutions. So are you ready to learn more about leading by example? Let's begin. So in this illuminating second part of the first series, The Foundation of Integrity, we will delve into the legacy of leadership, sustaining integrity beyond tenure. Stay tuned as we explore the crucial role of integrity in shaping lasting legacies within organizations. Our discussion will uncover how leaders can embed ethical principles that endure well beyond their tenure, ensuring that their influence on organizational culture continues to foster a commitment to integrity for many generations to come. We'll kick off the episode with an examination of what integrity and leadership truly means and its significance in creating a sustainable legacy. Our guest, Mrs. Nicole Gwanzura, will share her perspectives for integrating integrity into the fabric of an organization's culture. As we discuss the challenges of maintaining integrity in a rapidly changing world, we'll provide insights into overcoming common obstacles and adapting integrity initiatives to meet future needs. So whether you're a current leader, an aspiring executive, or simply interested in the power of ethical leadership, this series will offer valuable perspectives on ensuring that the values of honesty, transparency, and ethical behavior are a lasting hallmark of your organizational impact. So as I mentioned, we have a very special guest today, my friend and my spiritual sister, Mrs. Nicole Gwanzura. Nicole, if I butchered your last name, please correct me. Did I say that right? Gwanzura?
Perfect. Spot on. Spot on, sis.
Thank you, sis. So Nicole, MBA, Nicole Gwanzura, MBA, is not only the CEO of Education Advancement Consulting, LLC, but she is also a dedicated mother, a wife, and a believer. As a visionary career strategist, Nicole brings over a decade of transformative impact to early career development and higher education. Her journey as a bilingual immigrant and a first-generation college graduate from Zimbabwe enriches her work with unparalleled authenticity and empathy. Nicole is passionate about empowering students and early career professionals through her innovative career wellness workshops and personalized programs, charting their courses towards successful careers and academic achievements. As an alumna of Radford University with a bachelor's in marketing and an MBA, Nicole proudly serves on Radford's alumni board of directors. Her thought leadership is featured in publications such as Fortune, Her Campus, and Poets and Quants. So, sis, that is awesome. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So let's just jump right in, sis. Welcome. Again, thank you so much for being here today. Just to open up this series a little bit, or this episode of this series, please share a little bit about your background. What led you to specialize in career development and leadership training?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, what you're doing with this show and the conversations that you're bringing in, and the topics, the guests, is just so valuable and so needed. We're coming from a space where so much is changing in society and the community around us, but the core of what leadership is and what integrity is, well beyond tenure, should always be the same. And the things that change around it are good, but the core should always be the same. So I appreciate that. For me, early career development was something that I didn't really think I would actually be interested in at all. When my family moved to the United States from Zimbabwe, we had on the premise that we were going to have new opportunities for education. So I had a lot of community support that helped me navigate my next steps from high school to college to graduate school, even into my first career job after graduation. So I got to see these previews of people pour into me. So when I got to college, it made sense for me to help other students on campus get involved and give back to my community, interning with a career development office, and just understanding, even at the university leadership level, I got to sit in on conversations of how they were making decisions that were going to impact students. And so for me, just gaining on that experience, working in business school, admissions after graduation, it really just felt natural to me. So I really wanted to intern, help others navigate their journey, really own their experiences, really feel confident, and break through access and confidence barriers that often exist, especially for first generation and low income students and professionals. So that's really how I got into it. It was a mix of how people poured into me, the knowledge and experience I got through my education, and then coming into career opportunities that just made sense. And here I am over a decade later and loving it and wanting to be in this space for as long as I'm called to this purpose.
Wow. I got to tell you, Nicole, I know we met and we've had numerous conversations, but when I read your bio, I was like, oh my gosh, I had, as a first generation immigrant from Zimbabwe.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And look at what you're doing, so to me, that right there, the fact that you have, not just jumped, I mean, you basically catapulted over what could have been a, phenomenal barrier to most. You
Right.
did. So, I'm just thankful. And I just look forward to what you're going to share with us during the rest of this broadcast. So let me just keep going as we break open as we crack the ice on this, because I know you got so much you're going to share with us and I just look forward to it. So,
yes.
So what was a defining moment in your career that shaped your approach to ethical leadership and integrity?
For me, it was actually really early on in my career. It was the first role I got that I worked in business school admissions. It came out of me meeting someone in a very different environment and just giving my support to them. They were navigating a certain season of their career and path, and I was there to support. I poured in the knowledge that I had and supported them through that season, and then I just went about my day. That was just who I am. If I can support you, I can, share resources in any way, no problem. But then that person, it maybe was a year later, maybe a year and a half later, they reach out to me and they're like, hey, do you remember that time we met, that conversation we had? It has been on my mind since. My office is hiring, and I think you'd be a really great fit for this role.
Wow.
And I was blown away because we had only connected that day, maybe for a few hours. I just played my part in the day. I just played my part. I just did what I needed to do. But the way that also then turned into this, hey, you really showed me this, this human side, everything I was doing to support. And now I want to do the same for you. And And it wasn't in a way, sometimes it can feel like good old boys club and you can't get in somewhere, but they recommended me, but I still had to go through the application process, interview process, because we're still going to navigate all of these things in an ethical manner, in a way that, would still, if anybody were to look back on the books, there was no favoritism, but all they did was open up a door because of a conversation we had had from an authentic place. So for me, that really changed for me, that how you impact someone in any given day, any given moment can have a lasting effect on how they look at something, maybe how they look at you, how they look at conversations with other people. So you have to be very mindful of the conversations you're having, especially when it comes to careers and career progression.
I got to tell you, sis, I think a lot of that has to do with you as a person, your aura, how you carry yourself. Because when we met, just instantly, you just said, "Hi, my name is Nicole." And I was like, "Oh, I want to hug her and be her friend."
Me too. That's exactly how I felt. I said, you know what? Your outfit stood out to me. I saw you from across the room and I said, who is that woman? She is dressed to the nines. When I heard you speak, and I said, "Oh, and look at everything she's doing and what she represents. I have to know her." That was my beeline. I said, if that networking event would end and all I did was talk to you, that is okay. And it happened. And look at where we are.
Same here. Same here. I was like, I can go home now.
That's it. We're good.
So Nicole, I'm going to ask you one more question. Outside of your professional life, what are some passions or interests that drive you?
Outside, I'm someone who loves to be creative, and I'm the person who always loved scrapbooking and creating memories and just making sure that I can share those. So I love to take photos, not in a photographic way. But I'm the default family photographer. I love to take pictures and capture moments. Most of them, they'll never be posted to the world, but really, whether it's a beautiful blooming flower that reminds me of my grandmother, or a moment where I can see something that I just want to capture this moment forever. So I love to capture moments. And then I also love to serve. I've been looking for opportunities to serve. So I get to serve in the women's ministry as well as the prayer team at my church. And the greeting team. I just signed up for a whole lot just because greeting is easy. Prayer as led, but just being creative and allowing myself to showcase my different gifts and to serve others. And with women's ministry, we get to create how the events are going, doing something new every month, and allowing, the other women at the church to serve. So for me, those are really my creative outlets. And that's about where they end. Honestly, I have 2 small children. So
I'm thinking, how should you get all this done?
My creative outlet is very limited, but if I can be out and capturing moments, soaking in moments, or serving with my ladies at church and the fantastic team, then at least it fills my personal cup in that way.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, you mentioned, being able to fill your personal cup and the various, serving, roles of servitude that you have. How do you find success, whether it be in those roles of servitude or in your professional role?
For me, success is seasonal. It is very seasonal. And the reason why I say that is I come from a tendency of, which many of us fall for, you accomplish something, you're beelining towards something. That is what you want to achieve. And then when you get there, all of a sudden you say, "Oh, this is nice. I got this thing. Let me move on to the next. Let me go get that next accomplishment. I got that degree. Let me go get another one. I finished that. Let me go get a certification." And so you're right. You know what it's like, right? You've got a whole doctorate. You've got several degrees under your belt. And so just soaking in the moments of, okay, success to me means I'm accomplishing this and I'm getting to this achievement and I'm going to celebrate it. For me, it's taking that time to acknowledge it. And that's what success would mean to me in that season, in that target that I'm looking for, because also what it does, it serves as motivation. So if success means I have completed 1/4 of a plan that really big plan or that I needed to accomplish, and that gets done, we're going to celebrate that success, because not doing it means you don't meet a target at all. And then we're going to keep celebrating those small victories until we get to the big thing that we're looking for. And so it helps you kind of move in stride. So for me, it has had to become seasonal and situational versus I'm only successful when I get to this role, once I've done this thing, when I've done that thing, because it's always going to be fleeting. It's like going after a moving target.
I like that you said that. You put a lot into what you just said about, how you define success. Not only were there, pearls of wisdom in there for, life lessons, but
Mm-hmm.
also for career development, because, those same things, that how you define success apply to our professional lives as well. It's seasonal. You
That's
don't
it.
go into work winning every day. Or
No.
if you're an entrepreneur, you're not winning every day. It's sometimes you go through a long season of planting seeds, tilling the
Yes.
soil. And it's backbreaking work, but you got to
Right.
celebrate yourself. Because like you said, if you don't celebrate, you won't, appreciate or have those wins. You got to take the time to celebrate. And, when you said that, I was like, you know what? I don't think I
Mm-hmm.
celebrate enough, so
See?
I'm glad you said that. That was a pivotal, a pivotal nugget for me. So thank you for sharing that, Nicole.
Of course. Of course.
So before we get deep into the nitty gritty of this show, I want to share with the audience some organizational culture notes that I didn't get to cover in my last
Mm-hmm.
episode because I ran out of time. I want to just discuss how or the critical role that organizational culture has in either supporting or undermining integrity within an organization. And I think it'll be a great segue into, what you and I are going to discuss.
Absolutely.
Organizational cultures, they shape the behaviors, decisions, and attitudes of its members by establishing a set of shared beliefs, norms, and practices. And also the influence of organizational culture on integrity can manifest in several ways, significantly impacting the ethical climate and overall success of the organization. So, Ms. Moxie, would you mind sharing the first graphic on leadership actions? And what you're going to see is a slide on leadership actions, and it just captures 4 actions that leaders can do to make sure that the culture is conducive to integrity. Oh, you know what? We're going to come back to that graphic because it's break time. So, because Nicole and I are having fun. I forgot about our breaks.
I know. It's just fun. We just go with the flow and we just
Yes,
talking and going through. There's so much. There's so much
there's
that we're
so
going to
much.
cover off of this.
Yes, we can talk
Yes.
about this all day. But for now, we're going to take a quick, 3-minute break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about this little graphic. I want to get your insights, Nicole, and then we're going to dig deep into career and workforce development.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Thank you. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So before we went to our break, we were going to talk about 4 leadership actions for, ensuring that your organizational culture is ethically sound. And after we, talk about a couple highlights of this slide, we're going to jump into the meat of this, the content for this particular episode. So as you can see on the graphic, Ms. Moxie, if you can share the graphic, I don't see it, but if it's there, I trust you. So the first thing that leaders can do is implement training and development. Providing regular ethics training and development opportunities can reinforce an organization's commitment to integrity. Such initiatives help employees understand the ethical expectations of them and then how to apply those ethical expectations to their work. Adaptation to regulatory changes is the second one. Legal and regulatory frameworks governing ethical conduct in business are subject to change so frequently. So we need to make sure that as leaders, ongoing education ensures that leaders are aware of those current regulations and understand their obligations under the law, as that helps the organization remain compliant and basically stay out of trouble. Implementing leadership development programs is another one. Ethical leadership, if I can talk, is a critical component of effective leadership development. Training programs that focus on ethics and integrity contribute to the development of well-rounded leaders who can inspire trust and lead by example, ensuring that ethical considerations are integrated into the fabric of the organization. And then lastly, addressing unconscious biases. This is one that takes some work. Training can help leaders recognize and address their unconscious biases, which, if left unchecked, can lead to unfair practices and decisions. Understanding these biases is crucial for ensuring ethical interactions and decisions across all levels of an organization. So in sum, training on ethics and integrity are indispensable for ensuring that leaders at all levels are equipped to navigate the ethical challenges of the modern business environment and uphold ethical standards and lead their organizations so they are not only successful, but also ethical and responsible. So just wanted to capture that in a little, package that up from the last episode because it was going to bug me if I didn't talk about it. So Nicole, what do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share on that?
I think those are four really powerful points that organizations really need to think about. And I think being intentional about when these are implemented, right? So my husband works in finance, and it's important that everything that they do, if it's going to the Security Exchange Commission, for instance, what they're doing at work, when it goes to auditors, it has to be SEC compliant. It has to go by those bylaws, because for a public facing company, if it's not, then everybody goes down for it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's important that they're up to date with the training and the regulations according to the work that they're doing. And I think another important piece that is kind of thrown around, but not positioned properly, is the leadership development. I remember co-facilitating a leadership training, and there had been new leadership for that organization. So they pulled every single head from each department and brought them all together on this retreat. And people were coming out of the global crisis. They hadn't really been around each other much. Things had shifted. There's new leadership. But coming out of that training and retreat, they were in a much better position because, one, they got to hear directly from leadership about what's going on, but then they also got to talk to leadership about what their insights are, what their thoughts are, what they think could shift, because people have various seniority, have been around longer, things have shifted, but it was positioned at that right time because before they could move forward, they needed to come together. And so it's so important that it's timely. So I think you're touching on so many, but particularly I think on the regulations and timing of leadership development, those stood out to me as things that they really just need to be very intentional, because then you can address the biases. You can, incorporate the training and development, but that timing and who you bring in and what you're talking about and who's able to also share insight back and forth is so important.
Mm-hmm. So what about this, Nicole, as a professional as such as yourself? What do you think would be a trigger to make a leader say, hey, I think it's time for us to, schedule or plan for, some additional leadership development training? What could be some markers that people would look for?
So one that will always come, unfortunately, and if it's more of a reactive thing, it's going to come from disgruntled employees. Mm-hmm. It's going to come from, I've been in an organization where then the community that they're serving is coming in and voicing complaints about a certain situation. So then a town hall had to come in, a conversation had to happen, and then training had to happen for the teams behind that. So it usually comes immediately from disgruntled employees. But if you're a proactive organization, you're looking at, okay, what are the organization and departmental goals? What are they monthly, quarterly, annually, all of that, biannually? And how do we make sure that our teams get there, right? So many organizations will always have the check-ins and employee review times. But before you get there, it's a good time to pre-schedule that development. Because if usually on your goal sheet, you're going to write down, oh, I want to improve in such and such a thing. Oh, I want to do this thing. So how about you pre-schedule and say, oh, yes, as your supervisor, I agree. I think this is really great. At my training that we just did to kick off the quarter, these are the resources that leadership has set out to help you develop your career, so that by the time we meet for our review, we have set you up for success to align with your goals. So I think pre-scheduling some of those opportunities. And then as we're going through, like, the professional climate changes, the working environment changes. So then also still being proactive about, well, you know what? All of a sudden, yeah, we do need to think about artificial intelligence ethics and training. So that's now something we're going to throw in. Maybe we weren't thinking about it when we did our 5-year strategy goal or planning, but now we're going to do that. So it's really important to be proactive and then preset those markers. Otherwise, you're going to be driven by disgruntled either employees or the clients or audience that you're serving.
Thank you so much for that. Oh my goodness. So that was a great segue into the heart of today's discussion surrounding the legacy of leadership and how leaders can create a legacy of integrity that influences their organizations and their successors long after their direct involvement ends. So, Ms. Moxie, would you mind sharing the second graphic titled Career Development Expert? So, audience, as you'll see and note, Nicole's insights are invaluable to today's topic for a variety of reasons. You gave me so much to think about. I have a challenge with turning my brain off while I'm trying to focus. It's like she gave me so much I want to write. But anyway.
Me too. Me too. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
See this pen? Yeah.
I don't want to just stop and put my head down and be like, I'll come back to y'all in a minute. But on the slide titled Career Development, there are a variety of pathways. I'm sorry, not pathways, but I would say maybe levels or pillars of expertise that your profession bring to the organizational workplace. So the first one being understanding career pathways. The second one being mentoring and coaching, organizational development, succession planning, which is one I really, really love and is near and dear to my heart, employee engagement and retention, training and development, and of course, feedback mechanisms. So are there any of these that are like near and dear to your heart or your specialty niche that you'd like to talk about or share with us today or elaborate on?
Yes, for me, it's engagement and retention. Those are really close to my heart because every time I pose a question to an organization, to an institution and foundation, I always ask them, when the shining lights of recruitment events, of, the welcome boxes and the excitement of the hiring, when the shining lights fade, what does the experience look like on the other side? When the welcome banners have gone down, what does that look like?
I'm just laughing because, I know that feeling. You go from being a new employee and, everybody's always welcoming you in and, oh, how you doing today? And, it's very friendly. Then after like a week or two, it dries up and you're like, oh, that's what we're doing there. Nobody know I'm here. Nobody cares. No one would say hi, good morning. None of that.
That's it. That's it. It'll be see you again at review time, see you again. So then that's the conversation starter, because if you don't know what happens on the other side, then your retention, you expect your retention to stay. And then the other question that we're looking at too, related to that, is if I'm looking at your organizational chart and it is very, very bottom heavy with just a lot of people of color and women, and then you get to the top and you don't see as much of that. You're seeing these meager positions, or they're walking in and they're not seeing people that look like them. For those that are still going into the office, there's this huge return to the office right now. What does it all look like? Because that experience matters and it makes a pivotal difference. Whether it is someone who's coming fresh out of college or someone who's transitioning careers because you've sold them. So when I think about then that engagement and retention piece, that experience, again, a proactive organization is going to have certain checkpoints. Not every day is it going to be a welcome party or, shining lights or, but they should never feel forgotten. It's welcome. I'm so excited you're here. Let's have all of this set up for you. Okay, 1 month from now, your mentor, so-and-so, is going to reach out to you. They are going to connect with you. We recommend that you set up a monthly cadence or cadence of checking in with your mentor. Their job is this, and it aligns with some of the things you've told us you're interested in. And we want to see you grow with this organization. So you see, from day one, you're setting a picture of where they're going to be a year or 2 or 3 or 10 years from there. You are setting up the pace of what this looks like. And you know what? HR is doing this training, but this HR is going to do this training that is going to help you understand all of these things. But once you're done onboarding and offboarding, this key resource page on our intranet, which is usually the internal site, will allow you to check in with if you need some help balancing your checkbook, or not even checkbook. What am I talking about now? And it depends on the age frame, but you're balancing your finances, right? If you need to see somebody, if this transition, we understand you're doing your work, but we offer you 10 free mental health coaching sessions, and you can book them through here. So these are the kind of resources that are there for you on this website, right? So then now you're sharing, because it doesn't matter whether they're new, fresh out of college, they're new to your organization. So these are things that you're setting up for them, so they know this is where I go. This is who I talk to. So you give them a resource and empower them to go look for themselves, because we want them to be confident. We're not going to handhold the whole time. But here is a person, a human being that either aligns with a career or something that aligns with them that you can connect with. Right? So then you're doing that to set them up. And then you also have, of course, those leadership development. You have professional development exercises and activities that help you, so that even when work gets really tough and rough and the season goes like that, it's fine. You realize, hey, I go through it, but when I come out of it, I have resources to support me. There's more to life than this environment. I can talk to my supervisor if something is happening, or if my issue is my supervisor, I can talk to my mentor. I can talk to this person. I can join this enterprise resource group. That's how you build in. It's not sending a whole bunch of little things or doing a pizza party, but it's intentionality in the experience that you're building.
I love pizza.
Yeah, I love pizza, but I also like a raise in my check.
So Nicole, you spoke a lot about, the mentorship piece. There was kind of like a little thing going through, what you just said. My experiences, so, I'm retired Army, and, I'm in the civilian sector. My experiences with mentorship have not been good. You know what I mean? And not from the perspective of, people have been bad to me, because that has not been the case at all. It's just, there have not been, I have not had people come up to me and just say, oh, I could be your mentor. It took me going to say, hey, you know what? You look like somebody I want to look like a few years from now. Can you take me under your wing and show me what you did? Help me get to where you are. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know currently, for example, within the civilian space that I currently support as a contractor, I don't see a lot of it. I don't see it done aggressively. People get promotions and then they're left there to kind of figure it out on their own.
Yes. And it's really, really challenging, because it's often spoken about, but not as clearly implemented. Because if an organization does not have a plan, and sometimes the reality is, with all of these layoffs and things that are happening, maybe that person who was in charge of it or had thought about it, maybe they're not around anymore, or they just don't find it a priority anymore, which is a shame, but that can be the reality in some of these organizations. But I think if it's somewhere where there's a mentorship program in place that you go through. Something maybe you can opt in or opt out, because it might not work for everybody. Some people might just be, I want to be here, I want to collect my check, and I want to go home. All of this stuff you're doing for me, I don't want, which is okay, right? But if there is something already implemented, but if it is not, then you are taking the approach that you took, which is, okay, I'm looking at the organizational chart. I'm looking at this company. Hey, let me reach out to this person, but you have to start by developing a relationship, because a mentor just does not become a mentor overnight, right?
Right.
Let's just start having a conversation. Hey, I'm new to this organization. I'm new to this role. I've seen you do X, Y, and Z. Give them a reason, right? Like, what benefit does it come from them? I've seen you do X, Y, and Z. Do you have 30 minutes for a coffee that we could talk, that I could stop by your office and we could talk about this? And it starts with that, because what you're going to do is then determine, is this person willing to potentially keep a conversation going, or they're just like, okay, this was good. I'm too busy for you. I'm not interested in this. And then you automatically know that, okay, maybe this is not the person that you want, right? So it's just important to just kind of decipher. You'll have to do some legwork. You're going to have to look at the resources around org chart and all of that, and then start developing, narrow down one or two people and reach out to them and just find something out about them and start a conversation.
While you were saying that, Nicole, I did actually write a note, something that I want to follow on with you and delve into a little bit more on the side about maybe developing something to fill the gap of what I'm seeing within the spaces that I support, because that is so critical, because I don't see it. Now, it's not everybody that's not doing it, because I know that some organizations are, but just kind of, building that framework for saying, hey, this is, what it could look like here. Because, you can't, that's something that has to be customized. A lot of it's based on the organization's culture as well, how to shape that and connect mentors. So that was, oh my gosh, like super duper impressive. And you know what else too? So we are like we are like 20 minutes, away from but we didn't even get to the deep part of it. But this is what I'm going to do, right?
Yes.
I'm going to jump down to the questions that we previously talked about, because I know the people still going to learn from Nicole Gwanzura, MBA. Okay. So in your opinion, what are the key characteristics of a leader who leaves a legacy of integrity?
A leader who's able to admit when they're wrong. Because operating with integrity means sometimes, right, you're going to follow, you're going to try to follow the rules. You're going to try to implement some things and advocate, but sometimes you might miss the mark on something. And you have to be able to show that, hey, if I missed the mark on something, I did that. I own that. I made a mistake from that. And this is what I'm learning from it. And someone who leads with integrity too, I think on the other side, is able to speak up when other folks are not operating with integrity. And it's really hard in a leadership role, because sometimes it's, well, you just got to play the game. This is just how it's done. But no, just because that's how it's done, it doesn't mean that it's right. Right. And this could be contributing to issues that are recurring, because this is just how it's been done. So someone who can step up and speak and say, hey, you know what? Maybe let's rethink this. Let's talk through this. Or straight up, hey, this is just not okay. And unfortunately, sometimes that can come with several consequences around it. But it's important to be able to be someone who steps up into that. And I think those are two really key characteristics. And someone who leads in integrity too, sometimes can also come across as a servant leader, because they want to be able to support others, bring somebody through, either in a mentorship capacity or they're in a sponsorship capacity, because we have these mentors and the mentors are working alongside us, but sometimes the sponsor is the one who's opening the door
Right.
and saying,
Right.
hey, I see a position for you, a spot for you right here. And because I have held myself to a certain standard, you can trust that the door I'm opening for you and what I've learned about you is going to be a place where you can go and implement change, is a place where you can go showcase your experiences and help to shift things in the organization. So, I mean, there's a lot more to it, but I think those couple of highlights of someone who's not afraid to admit when they're wrong, someone who's going to open the door for someone who's going to also then just be able to speak up when something is not right, despite the way it's always been done.
And even if what you're saying is unpopular.
Yes. Go for the unpopular opinion. Go through the road less traveled.
And I think this is something that I really want to. That's a point that I really want to, hone in on and basically stay on throughout the life of this radio series, because I think that is so important that you have to know your own compass first, right? So if you're saying that, I have to take I have to always do what's right for my organization, but I have to, sometimes that may involve me taking an unpopular approach or, taking that unpopular opinion within the workplace. But how do you get there? You know what I mean? What are those things that are your foundation as a leader to help you understand, hey, this is what I stand for. This is not, this is what's cool with me. This is what's not, this is what's going to keep me up at night. This is what's going to help me sleep. How do you get there? You know what I mean? You got to know.
Yeah. You do.
What is what is your compass? You know what I mean? What is your moral compass? What drives you? And I think sometimes, within the workplace, and not just work, but just within society in general, we are bombarded with so many different images. And unless you are truly honed into who you are as a person, your spiritual foundation, you'll be easily swayed.
Always.
You'll see somebody else do something like, oh, they got away with it. They look like they're good.
I always see there's two quotes that come to mind around that. One, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, right? And then I keep seeing this video pop up with a caption that says, oh, I keep seeing that person do something and get away with it, but if I do it, God's going to make me an example.
Right, like better.
You knew better. So look.
But that made me think about how, sometimes, growing up, our parents would say, well, you say, oh, my friend did it. Well, that ain't my child. You mine. You do what I tell you to do. Okay?
If your friend jumps off a cliff, are you going to too?
Right. So Nicole, what are some challenges that leaders typically face when trying to establish a culture of integrity? And we kind of hit on that.
Yeah, the status quo. I think that's a major challenge, is the status quo, and trying to change that, trying to shift that. Sometimes it can be just because it's ahead of its time, or sometimes it's because the way that it's already been done has been working. So if it's not broken, why fix it, right? If it's not broken in their eyes, if it's not broken in the policies and standards, then why fix it? And then the challenges of maybe an organization that wants to change, but once they hear what it takes to change, they don't want it anymore. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So in your experience, how do organizations measure the impact of a leader's integrity after they leave? So, how do you measure, say, for example, I'm in the organization and I said I did all these wonderful things. I've sown I've woven the fabric of integrity throughout everything that we've done in our operations, and I'm gone now. How does that organization measure my impact?
Oh, measuring impact can be very, very challenging in some aspects, but also some of it can be very apparent. So there's the intangibles and the tangibles around that. So the intangibles are going to be the effect of the relationships that they have built, the people that they've mentored and sponsored, the way, as Maya Angelou said, right, it's not about what you did, but how you made them feel. And so when you're thinking about, when they leave, so-and-so really helped me transform the way I look at my job. They helped me transform the way I talk to my team. So that's that trickle down effect of it, right? But then there's also the tangibles. Hey, they've done these things with integrity. And because we took the time to develop relationships, it started small. It was building. We had to throw out all our old data or repurpose all of our old data. And now we're going to start building from a firm foundation. Then you start to see that uptick. And then when they leave and you continue to implement, you're going to see that growth. And if you just compare it to what you had before let's just take an example of like you had data that didn't really make a lot of sense, or the data was just pulling from not big enough of a pool, or it just looked better, but it wasn't actually doing anything to implement. And now you're looking at, wow, we have this really great foundation. And for every experience, every data point that's increasing, we can see this translate into higher sales. We can see this translate into our clients staying with us longer. We can see this translate into this. So while, we had to reshift that list of 10,000, and we're starting again at 2,000. These 2,000, the bounce back rate is not, as high. It's gone down. So then you're now looking at all of that and you can see, wow, this leader and the way that they've interacted and impacted even laterally across other leaders, right? Or maybe above, if there's a board of directors or some governing body, you can tell the impact, but it's not going to be, sometimes it won't be immediate. Sometimes it'll be after you've looked and you see, okay, what they touched, that soil that they tilled, right? That seed that they planted, the way it is blossoming from good soil, not rocky ground anymore.
Right. Like, did they soil the soil?
Right. Did they soil the soil, right? Or did they water and nourish the soil?
Right. Right.
That's it. So there's some intangibles and tangibles around that.
So Nicole, what advice? This is going to be our last question because, like I said, you and I, we can go at this all day. Actually, not just this topic, but any topic.
Any topic, pretty much.
Right. So, what advice would you give to new leaders who want to build and leave behind a strong ethical legacy?
I think it's important, right? As we talked about, you should know your foundation. You should know your core and your values, right? And then you should take some time to understand the organization's values. Do they align with what you're doing, right? Because sometimes, yes, you got to do what the organization is saying you should do, but look at your core of who you are, because the reason why you've been promoted into that role or hired into that role is because you are bringing something unique. Your expertise and your experience are there because they want to affect change because of what you're doing. So it's really important that once you have your firm foundation and study what is to come, study what the organizational needs are, then it allows you to move with ethics, because the moment there's that tug, right? That intuition, whatever you want to call it, right? There's that.
Your gut. Your
gut is telling you, you know what? That doesn't feel right. That doesn't seem right. When I look at these numbers, they look a little fudged, like something happened, like something is being shifted here. But if you don't know your moral compass, you're just going to let it fly, let it roll, because you want to show up. You want to run and be the best leader possible.
And let the next man get it.
Let it fall where it falls, right?
Let them worry about that. Yeah.
Let them worry about it. But for me, I'm going to show up. But just like that legacy of that leader who has left with integrity, that is going to be the same experience for you if you are able to say, hey, this is where it is. And sometimes, honestly, it can come up as, what the company could define as a failure or not what they're looking for if they realize this is not how we want to do things. And then you might need to walk away from that situation because you're like, hey, I did my best in the way that I knew how. I implemented the best tools I knew how. This is what you hired me for, this experience. And maybe they're not ready to see the change. Or it could be the opposite, where now you are uniting where there was no unity. You are, because of your ethical standards. People are attracted to people who do good things.
That's right.
People who are trying to implement a positive change. It's so much easier to be driven towards that person who's doing that and champion what's going on. And of course, having people who are going to have a healthy criticism around it too. You need that, right? To spot check.
That's how you grow. Yeah.
That's how you grow. That's how you grow. You know, it's not about coming and working solo, but it's about coming and setting ethical standards and following those and building a team around that of the people who are going to help you grow. Because I mean, it sounds cliche, but there's no real I in team. You are going to have people around you that are going to bring that vision to life. So as a new leader, it's so important. But if you don't hear anything else from this advice, you need to have your core foundation and values, because that's going to help guide you with wherever and whatever you do.
So if you were in college, that is the foot stomp, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Yes. So Nicole, please tell us about your free giveaway. And Moxie, if you would, please share the final slide that has Nicole's contact information.
Yeah, so I am giving away a 5-step career wellness checklist. And this is a checklist that really helps you think through, okay, this is where I am at work right now. What steps do I need to implement? What things do I need to make sure I'm setting myself up for success at work and outside of work? How am I thinking about some of those boundaries? And it starts with those 5 steps. So it's my gift to you, something to think about. And, once you have that, share it, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Let's talk about it. I want to hear about, what stood out for you from that checklist. And if not, I'm just so happy that you were able to be supported by it.
Wonderful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is, we're going to start wrapping up this show because we've had a lot of information to put in there. We didn't even get to the majority of it, but we just had a great back and forth dialogue. And I know I learned a lot, so I trust that you did as well. Please continue to act on the information, or please act on the information. If you're hearing it for the first time, act on it in your workplace. Okay. Mm-hmm. Schedule a free strategic leadership consultation with me, or download Nicole's free checklist at her website. Her website address is on the final slide that the producer is showing. And also be on the lookout for leadership blogs. And please be sure to tune into the next show on Thursday, May 2nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when we will close out this series with the topic Trust and Transparency. So again, I am Dr. Vaughn. Thank you so much for tuning in. Nicole, I can't thank you enough for, being my first guest for this radio show. Yes. And Moxie, thank you so much. Thank you to my producer, because she is the muscle behind this. So thank you. Shout out to Moxie. And again, thank you, Nicole. Thank you to the audience for joining in. Myself and Nicole would love to hear from you. So hit her up on her website, drop a note here, or hit me up at Ontero Solutions. I can't even say my company name right. It was just, I have so many ideas and thoughts through my head. We're going to talk. Sis, I'm going to call you after this broadcast show. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in, and have a wonderful rest of the week. Goodbye. You have been listening to Leading by Example, Upholding Standards Without Compromise. I am your host, Dr. Vaughn, bringing you inspiring excellence, one lesson at a time. Tune in to Transformation Talk Radio every first and third Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific for fun, practical, and educational stories as I share lessons, both the good and the bad, that I have learned in my 20 years of leadership and management experience. As we go through and learn these lessons, I would ask you to be thinking about those lessons that you bring that you could share for potential, hey, you may even want to be a guest on our show. So think about those lessons as we continue to explore inspiring excellence one lesson at a time. For more information, please visit www.enterosolutions.com. That's ENTERO.